So I used to play hide and seek, fucking hell. So I used to play hide and seek a lot with my friends, but I kept cheating using video effects and stuff like this. So I'm gonna teach you how to come in and out of existence really quickly. And to do this, all you need is Blender. I mean, you can use whatever video editing program you want as long as it has masks. But yeah, let's make some hiding effects or something. And let's go back indoors because it's too fucking cold out.
Well, would you look what the cat dragged back in? Another delinquent who wants to learn the art of hiding or being invisible. And what are you hiding from, really? Are you trying to hide from your parents, your relationship, your responsibilities? I don't know, nor do I care. I'll teach you how to hide. What you want to do with that is up to you. So, first of all, film some footage of you walking behind a pole or something. Just make sure you're using a tripod. You could do this with moving footage, but it's a bit more complicated. And once you do that, in Blender, go to compositing. I'm going to be using version 2.92. You can use literally whatever you want, okay? So in compositing, enable use nodes, and the idea here is we're going to import our footage and then manipulate it with a bunch of nodes with compositing, which gives us the hiding effect. So to do that, first of all, take your footage, drag and drop, and that's a way to import it. You know, I used to be one of those schmucks using the movie clip node and then being like, oh, I'm going to open and go to this. Now you can just drag and drop, okay? Once you do this, we want to view this, so Control-Shift-Click if you have Node Wrangler. Otherwise, you know, you're a peasant using a viewer node manually. Just make sure you have this viewed and it's going to composite, so whatever we see is what's getting rendered, and you can see that we now have our footage in the compositor. If we were to play through this though in the timeline, frame 100, 130, whatever it may be, right, you can see we're getting the same frame over and over and over again. It's like we took a freeze frame, which is going to be useful later, but it's not the movie clip. This is because the movie clip node right now starts on frame 1, and then it only goes for 1 frame, and that's it, right? It's just looping again and again and again. So take this, make it a big number. It doesn't actually have to be like the length of your footage. Bigger than or equal to is fine. So you could even put in 100,000 or pi to the power of, I don't fucking know, okay? Put in a big number, and now you can see that the footage is actually moving. It's not moving too much because, again, it's on a tripod, but you can see I get my hand in here and stuff. So what we need to do is just kind of isolate the area where the effect should happen. Ideally, you just import in the footage that's already trimmed and stuff like that, but I happen to know, I think the effect starts at around, let's move this, frame like 850 or something. You can see I'm about to cross over. So let's trim this, frame 850, and then I'm going to be doing the thing, walking across the pole, dancing across the pole. What does that make you think of? Until like 950, okay? So we're going from frame 850 to 950, and just a couple things, just a little quick thing. 30 frames per second is, I think, what I recorded at, and then also color management. Make sure that's standard, okay? And also, another quick tip, OpenCL makes compositing faster, allegedly. Some dude yelled at me in a comment telling me that, so I just believe him from now on. You know, if you're aggressive enough, you're going to be believed. So here we have a movie clip of me going from one side to the other. It's trimmed, and to make it, you know, so I'm coming out from this pole. So in other words, I don't want to be here in the beginning, and it looks like I come out of oblivion. I need to know what is behind me, right? Because if we want to make me invisible, we need to recover the background detail. To do this, well, you're going to notice that the last frame, I'm already standing on this side. In other words, this side's empty. So if we could somehow extract this frame but only use it on the left side, that'd be great. And remember that when we did the freeze frame thing before, I hinted, like foreshadowing, I basically hinted that Voldemort was going to be in the orphanage and all this. I said that we could use the freeze frame to our advantage. My God, who's calling me? How shameless am I getting a phone call in the middle of this? Either way, we were talking about freeze frame, so we want to take frame 90, make a freeze frame so that we can extract the detail in the background. To do this, we go backwards, right? So we take the frame, set it back to 1, so now it's going to take the first frame and kind of hold it like a freeze frame, right? If we were to view this, you can see we get the same thing as before. But this time, we set the offset, I think, to 950, okay? And this is basically going to give us the same freeze frame effect, so on any frame, we get frame 950. So in this case, it's actually useful to use this trick, okay? So now what do we have? We have the footage of me going from left to right, and this could be a tree, a pole, whatever. And we also have this thing that I want to mask out so that this area, I'm not visible, but only when I cross the pole I am. In other words, what we need to do is overlay. So alpha over, put one over the other. I'm going to put the freeze frame, which we can rename, by the way. You could go to view, I believe, item. It's one of these. You call it freeze, you copy this, you paste it, and then you can see it's called that over here, just to stay organized. So we want to overlay one on top of the other, although the factor, in other words, like how strong should each of these be mixed together when we actually view it, this should be kind of dependent on the mask, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a mask node, click this, put it right here, and now we just need to create a mask for this node to inherit. To do this, you could either go to Movie Clip or what I recommend much faster, Image Editor, you go to your viewer, or really the image editor has a bunch of things it could show. One of the things it could show is what we see in the viewer node. In other words, what we connect over here. So it's dependent on this. So we just see the viewer node. And then if we change the mode over to mask, dude, that phone call threw me off tilter. I feel like tilter. I feel like I'm off. Anyways, create a mask. I'm going to call this pole mask. And to actually create this, all you have to do is you control click wherever you want. That's going to create a mask point, and then you just keep control clicking. Unlike most programs where you just click or click and drag, Blender's like, you know what? Let's make this as awful as possible. Control clicking will be the new standard. So all I'm doing is I'm creating a mask of anything that is to the left side of the pole, including the pole itself, so that I only emerge outwards here. So one thing we need to do, mask, make sure this is set to cyclic, so it's actually closing in on itself. Otherwise, the mask is just a spline that doesn't give us much information. But now when it's cyclic, you can see we're basically isolating this area, which you could invert, by the way. I learned this recently, but just a quick tip. So this is the mask we now have. In the compositor now, since we don't need this anymore, we could have our mask inherit pole mask, which sometimes is seen, sometimes it's not seen. If you're having issues with this, by the way, just enable motion blur. I know it's like a stationary mask, but believe me, I've had issues, and maybe this is a bug that's existed for a while, but sometimes enabling a motion blur is what you need. So let's see what we have so far. What we have so far is if we go to frame 850, in other words, the beginning of our project, we don't see anything because what we have is this footage, but we are overlaying this image wherever the mask exists. So in other words, we're going to see nothing. And then as I walk outwards, beyond the mask, we're going to see me. And that's the effect. Some things to clean this up is you're going to see if we go in a bit closer. So you can go like that. You can see that the line or the spline or the mask is a bit harsh. And you could either fix that by drawing it a bit better, or dilate/erode is going to let us feather this procedurally. So I'm just going to feather it by 5. And maybe it should be -5 so it eats into the pole a little. In other words, this is our mask and this is our feathered mask, right? It just creates a bit of a subtle, like softened gradient edge, right? Okay. So at this point, let's see what we have. We can reset backdrop. We have me walking. It's only going to appear once I cross the threshold. And there we go. Like a baby rearing his head when he's born. There I come out. So at this point, once you have this whole effect, make sure that it's not only being viewed, which is, what we see, but what matters is that the final output is also going to the composite node, which means when we render this, so, generally you want to render this as a video, you pick some settings that make sense. You need to make sure it's going to the composite node, otherwise nothing's going to get rendered. So just pick an output. God, I need to fix this folder. This is cursed. Let's call this, what should I call it? I'm going to call it pole baby rearing. I don't know. Take that, render it, and there you go. There's a tutorial using the cursed compositing video sequencer, whatever workflow that I hate. Anyways, if you want to get the project file or any other blend that I've ever used, including footage and all the resources, Patreon is the place to get that. So this blend is going to be available on Patreon, of course. Patreon is a place where some 680, 90 people have already signed up to get blend files, exclusive tutorials that are not posted on this or the CG Matter channel. Additionally, Discord access, behind the scenes, not exclusive, I already said that, early access. So for example, this tutorial was posted early. If you become a patron, you could, watch it a couple of days early or a day early, depending on how far ahead of schedule I am. So this one's probably posted a day early. All these things exist over there, but I want to say thank you to all 600, I don't know, some number, some patrons that believed in the vision or really just wanted blend files. I don't know. Thank you guys. If you want to join, if you're a viewer who is not part of that, links in the description. If you don't have to. You already learned the information, right? You could just take the money and run. But yeah, that's how you make the hiding effect. Hope you learned something. See ya.